Well, good morning.
Hello and welcome to the Foodeshow. Good morning, Nerida. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So Nerida is Vice President of World Packaging Organization, our partner on this session. Thank you so much for waking up so early.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Wonderful, Nerida. Thank you. So you are the Vice President of the World Packaging Organization. You are responsible for sustainability and no waste. Can you tell us more about your position?
Well, I'm a newly appointed Vice President, so I'm one of 5 Vice Presidents, so we all have different portfolios, and my portfolio is sustainability and safe food. And my responsibility is to help our members across the world. We have 52 members across the world and other developing countries around the world to assist them to understand better circular, sustainable design and how to use packaging, safe food packaging, to minimize food. So it's quite an exciting role.
Wonderful. And you have a presentation for us. I will be happy to do that. So whenever you feel like it, just let me know and I'll go next. For all our audience, you can chat via the panel on the right-hand side. She will be happy to answer your messages, even if it's 5:30 a.m. her time. Thank you, Nerida.
Thank you very much.
Go with
So we might start the presentation. So today I'm going to talk to you about the role that packaging plays in minimizing food waste, because packaging really does play an important role. Next. Next slide. So we all know that food waste is an issue, and it's a serious issue. So 30% of all food produced globally goes to waste, and that equates to 1.3 billion tons of food a year. The difficulty that we all have is that on one hand, we're wasting all of this food globally, but on the other hand, we have 793 million people starving. And we have 100 million people around the world that suffer on a daily basis with malnutrition and risk of starvation. And 90% of these people, sadly, are in developing countries. Next. So economically, global waste is a $1.6 trillion problem. So if you look at it, you're looking at $50 million in production and $50 billion in consumption. Next. Socially, we need to look at closing the food gap of 56% by 2050. Next. And economically, food waste impacts on our sustainability. So 8% of greenhouse gases come from food that is lost or wasted within climate change, and that's a serious problem. Next. So what countries around the world are measuring food loss and waste? And if you have a look at the colours on the slide, you've got countries that look like a light brown, and they're the ones around the world measuring food loss and waste. And the blue ones have a timeline in place to establish measurement. And then all the others around the world that are in the grey are not measuring food loss and waste. So it's pleasing to see that we are slowly getting countries around the world measuring it. And Australia and New Zealand, where I'm in Australia, you can see we're doing it as well. So we're quite active in this area. Next. So what governments around the world are looking at food loss and waste reduction targets that will align to the Sustainability Development Goals 12.3. And again, you can see the green. The green is the targeted countries that are aligned with the SDGs 12.3. And then the yellow is targeted aligned with loss only. And it's, again, not as many countries as we would like to see around the world. Next. So food loss and waste, it differs by region. And again, when you look at this map, you're looking at a light blue, which is all of the countries around the world that are focused on the loss in consumption. So their highest losses are in the consumption, consumer, household areas. The navy blue on the left-hand side is production. So those are countries that are losing most of their food waste in the production area. And then the yellow is handling and storage and transportation regions. Next. So how do you put this in perspective? If you have a look at that picture, this is just to show you from a developed country's perspective, not a developing, a developed country's perspective, how much waste one person wastes a year. And that picture is 298 kilograms of food for one person in a developed country that they waste a year. And this is all unnecessary food waste. Next. So there's 5 ways of creating value out of food waste, and the one that I would like to talk about today is prevention. Next. So much of the food waste that we have around the world heads to landfill, and you need to understand that that has added environmental impacts that sit behind food production, including food, land, energy, labour, capital and greenhouse gas emissions. So for the world to minimise its carbon footprint, we need to develop systemic sustainable food systems. And this is where we believe at the World Packaging Organisation that packaging has a significant role to play, and in particular what we refer to as Save Food packaging. Next. So what is Save Food packaging, you ask? Well, Save Food packaging is designed to minimise or prevent food waste from paddock to plate using innovative and intuitive design features that can contain and protect, preserve, extend shelf life, be easily openable and resealable, provide consumer convenience and portion control, but all the while meeting global sustainable packaging targets. Next. So when you start looking at your Save Food packaging design, you do need to take into consideration the life cycle assessment of the production of the food, the transportation of the food, and the packaging of the food. So you can't look at packaging in isolation. You must look at the whole total production of the food and include your packaging as a part of the LCA. Next. Next slide, please. So when a designer is trying to balance the sustainable packaging design and circular design targets, and also the food waste targets and how to develop Save Food packaging efficiently, there's always a sweet spot in the middle. And occasionally there are trade-offs, and there has to be, depending on the food that's produced and the packaging that's required for that food for health and safety and integrity aspects, etc. So we try to teach the packaging designers and technologists around the world to look at finding that sweet spot where you're not under packaging, you're not over packaging, you're not wasting food, you're not wasting packaging, and somewhere in the middle there's an optimum pack design. So this can be challenging for packaging designers, but it's something that we're trying to work on through education and training. Next. So how do designers design Save Food packaging, you ask? So we are trying to establish a set of guidelines that will help educate designers and that they can use as a criteria and a checklist as they're designing their packaging. So if you start by considering that it's to design to contain and protect the product from spoilage and damage through manufacture, warehouse, and the various stages of distribution. And if you have a look under that point, there are a number of areas that you need to consider. So obviously we're talking about all packaging. We're not talking just about primary packaging. So we're referring to secondary, tertiary packaging. We then want you to consider palletization, stabilization, and transport optimization. We want you to consider tamper evidence so that there's no human contamination, and also shocks, vibrations, and chemical contaminations, etc. The second area that we would like you to look at is designing to preserve, enhance product appeal, and extend shelf life. Now, this is one of the most important areas in safe food packaging design. We have found that the most successful safe food packaging that is designed around the world extends shelf life and has a really good barrier, improved barrier. You will see in innovations that I'll talk about shortly, modified atmosphere packaging, skin vacuum packaging, EMAP packaging, very good intuitive packaging features to consider incorporating in your design, and also active and intelligent packaging. And active and intelligent packaging can be everything from TTIs, sensors, shock absorbers. You could also have oxygen absorbers, all the way through to QR codes and active and intelligent packaging on pack that the consumers can go home and read a little bit more about recipes, how to freeze the items, date labeling communication, shelf life communication, etc. Next. So then we move into design to provide convenience, to not waste food in handling. And this is an area that we talk about as accessible and inclusive design. So when you design your packaging, consider people with disabilities, people that are unwell, they're in hospitals, they're elderly, they have difficulty with dysphagia or swallowing, they have difficulty opening. Because when you have a pack that you can't open, and we've all had this issue in our own households, if you can't open it or you struggle to open it and then you tear it open, you're going to waste that food. You're going to spill that food. So if you have an intuitive pack and you can easily open it, you can reseal it, it's got a big tag grip at the top, you can clearly see that you can hold it in your hand, then that's going to be a more effective pack to not minimize food waste. And then we move into an area that we all struggle with, the differences between date labeling all the way around the world. We have best before dates, we have date labels, we have use by dates. And if you stopped and thought about a best before date definition versus a use by date definition, I ask you, do you actually understand the difference? So if you open your fridge today, go in there, have a look at a best before date and a use by date. Take a pause and think about whether you understand what the significant difference is and whether you're wasting food unnecessarily because you don't understand the difference between a best before and a use by date. And if you can then take that and teach all of your family and all of your staff and colleagues, then we have a step change. On-pack communication is also a really critical area with minimizing food waste. We need to make sure that consumers understand the use by date, the shelf life, whether you can put it in a freezer. If you put it in a freezer, how long should it be in that freezer? Should it be 1 month? Should it be 3 months? Should you keep it outside the fridge and on your counter in your kitchen? Should you put it in a particular area of your fridge? And if we can encourage designers around the world to provide better on-pack communication, we have another step change. And then the last one is the national packaging targets. Now, everywhere around the world, whether you're in Europe, whether you're in the Middle East, Latin America, we are all trying to achieve the sustainable packaging design targets. We're all trying to become more circular, and we want to make sure that all of the packaging is easily recyclable in the country that it's sold in and that it doesn't end up in landfill. Next. So what does safe food packaging design look like, you ask? Well, the World Packaging Organization runs a international International World Star Packaging Awards program. And one of my favorite categories is packaging that saves food. And it invites the 52 member countries from around the world to enter their own regional award programs and enter their winners into the prestigious Global Save Food Packaging Design Award. And it's a special award that the awards have each year. So if you have a look at this one, this is the 2020 Special Award winner. And this is a chicken farm in Australia. And they won for a cryovac Darfresh vacuum skin technology. But this particular pack was designed for small portion control. It was designed for 2 people. So we are trying to move away from these massive packs of food that you're never going to use, or you're going to cook with and then you're going to waste it because you don't use it on the next night. And this is a perfect example of respecting that, not all households are 4 to 6 people anymore, that they're more like 1 or 2, and it's a small portion control. It's got an easily tearable, and there's a grip on the top right-hand corner, which you may not be able to see, so it's easy to open, it's resealable, it's designed to be freezer ready, which again is really critical, and it extends shelf life by 25%, which is the most important thing. Next. And then we go to China. And there are a number of regions in China where they eat a substantial amount of eggs in their diets. And this particular pack was designed to be modular and flexible and transportable for not only e-commerce, but for the consumers, so that they could go to the markets and they could purchase their eggs and they could put them within this pack, and it extends shelf life. It's a recyclable and a reusable packaging design, and it's extremely flexible and adaptable. And they found that in transportation alone, it minimized egg damage by 50%, and it also extended the shelf life of the eggs by 50%. Next. And then we head to America, and this is a company called Playcon, and the product is Home Fresh Entree. And this is a really smart and intuitive pack because it's modular, and it has a leak prevention when the lid is on. It has options for a vented and a non-vented lid, which allows the air to be released. It's microwavable, it's reusable, and it's certainly ideal for leftovers. And the best part is the lid and the base are recyclable by the curbside collection in the US. Next. Then we head to Italy. And this is a company called Smilers, which is a drop and taste packaging design. And what they've done is they've actually put the peelable film of the lid, they made sure that it doesn't come off. So you can close it and reseal it quite easily so that you don't waste it. So you can transport it. So if you want a couple of the products within it, you eat them and then you close the lid, and if you see there's a big tear grip on the side, so it's easy to open again. And the resealability of this particular design extends shelf life. There's no food waste, there's no leakage. It also reduces the amount of plastic that they used in their previous packs, and it ensures that it's easily openable and resealable. Next. And then we head to Brazil. And this was a part of a much larger program, which is a really incredibly smart program and successful program that's happening in Brazil at the moment. And it's for transportation of grapes, but it also is for other produce as well. It's a fully recyclable pack, which has a high thermal insulation. It improves product preservation. It extends shelf life of all of the fruit by 20%. And it makes sure that the fruit waste and fruit weight of the loss of the weight of the fruit as it's transported is also reduced by about 50%. It's completely certified for European standards, and it's really ideal for transportation all the way to the markets. Next. And then we have Sri Lanka. And this is being developed. It's an active packaging system. And you may recall that I was talking about active and intelligent packaging. And this is an example of active packaging. And it was designed for prawns. And they designed it for delivery during summer. So obviously for the heat and the humidity and the changes of temperature. It's a vacuum packed, which removes 90% of the air inside. It's a recyclable pouch. It extends shelf life. It's easy to tear at the top, and it also has a zipper for resealing. It prevents bad odors and it retains freshness. So this is a great example of active packaging and how it can extend shelf life. Not only extend shelf life, but minimize food waste. Next. And then we head to China again for an IDC, which is an aseptic bag in dispenser beverage pack for the food service industry. So the aseptic tap was designed so it extends shelf life. It's really convenient for the food service operators to use. It reduces the ability to spoil and spill the juice. It's a microwavable bag, so it has the potential for both hot and cold drinks. They redesigned the packaging so that there was less materials in the new pack, and it can be used multiple times, so it has a reusable capability. Next. And that's it for me. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present safe food packaging design to you. And I do hope that you have questions. And I encourage you all to think about small step changes that you can do within your own household to minimize food waste around the world. Thank you.